Good morning, afternoon, and evening to you all. Thank you all for joining us on this webinar to learn how to simplify your time tracking processes with scripting automation. I'm Chelsea Bauer. I'm the product marketing manager here at Cprime, and we'll be covering some pretty hardy use cases on how to rethink time tracking solutions. Today's speakers, we have Alex Eck. He's the senior product expert here at Tempo. With 10 years of experience in customer guidance, he's been granted the title of OB1 of the Tempo product suite. He plays an integral role with Tempo partners to bring them technical solutions to ensure that best practices are being implemented. Then we have Jonathan Muse, our product manager here at Cprime. He has over 20 years of experience in software development, and he not only leads our strategy and roadmap, but also takes the helm in implementing complex solutions for many of our clients. So our agenda today, we're going to quickly cover our approach, what our products are, what we've built for folks who don't know us, and then we'll get into it. We'll be framing the problems and bringing in the solutions, and then we'll close out for Q&A. So a little about us here at Cprime. As you know, we're an Atlassian solution partner with our expertise solutions focused in Agile, DevOps, and ISTM. Our product footprint has really evolved into three key areas. We've built the Power Suite, a language-based admin framework solution for automation, custom solutions, and integrations. In addition, we have scaled Agile apps as well as ISTM service desk apps focused on customer satisfaction and quality. We also leverage our joint partner solutions. It's all about joining forces with other dominant partners in the ecosystem, such as Tempo. So product-to-product integration is a key goal of ours, whether it be asset management, release planning, time tracking, workflows, collaboration tools, and so forth, all to build a better story together. So what have we built? We built the Power Suite. It's a suite of complementary apps, eliminating the need for 20+ single-purpose apps, and it's built with our simple issue language framework. This enables users to extend out to workflow automations, scripting, custom fields with different types, external database integrations, bringing data in from other sources, editing the UI with user-face wizards, and even scripting in Confluence. Today, we'll be primarily focusing on Powerscripts. How we leverage really revolves around automation, application governance, and advanced administration. Anything from permissions and restrictions, for example, locking down issues and inline editing, field manipulation, things like automating field values on issue creation or requiring a capture. The Jira UI side, such as custom error messages, alerts, and conditional notifications based on some rules. And finally, in the context of your daily role on a team, process automations, advanced JQL reporting, auto prioritization, custom calculations, and whatnot. Let's shift gears to Tempo. Fun fact, Tempo originates in Reykjavik, Iceland. They released their time tracking app more than 10 years ago as one of the first apps available for Jira, and they have since solidified themselves as the biggest time tracking app in the Atlassian ecosystem. When SMBs and enterprise companies need time tracking solutions in Jira, Tempo is their app of choice. As you'll get to experience today, Tempo works with other solution providers to offer customers an easy way to satisfy their use cases. Tempo offers 4 main products today in the Atlassian ecosystem. The most popular is Tempo Timesheets, which offers seamless time tracking in Jira. The Tempo Planner allows you to find and optimize available resources within your organization. There's the financial app on server and with Tempo budgets. And finally, a recently released new app exclusive to Jira Cloud named Cost Tracker for Tempo Timesheets. So they're popular use cases. Tempo is a homegrown time tracking solution. It all started when a couple of their developers back in the day didn't like that they had to track time outside of the platform that they spent most of their day working in. So they decided to build a time tracking app seamlessly integrated into the platform. Over time, their users have grown to encompass various use cases such as billing and invoicing to ensure accuracy, HR and ops monitoring payroll, and resource management for proactive assignments. All right, let's dive into the problems. Many of these listed here are not only what we've experienced in our organizations, but also in many of our clients'. There's too many business units trying to coordinate their resources and consolidate all the tools that span across the different silos, such as sales, marketing, customer support, and delivery. In tandem with this problem brings miscommunications of how the work is being monitored. Another hurdle is that getting accurate reports on the data is too complex and time consuming, which results in delay in revenue and affects profitability. And then correcting these inaccurate data data entries has become an administrative burden. So the solution is to bring alignment with time tracking together with the business and delivery execution. So starting with installing one time tracking tool across different departments, then ensure your teams are working on the right thing as an organization, such as your planned work items that are deemed important to the business are actually getting done. Then help the business understand outcomes over output. Any team member would know that you often get lost in the tactical task-based activities spread across hundreds, if not thousands of Jira tickets. So it's important to realign priorities with tactical to more strategic. And then harness the power of automation to pre-populate values, attributes, personnel, and account information all along the value chain. And on that note, I'm going to pass the mic over to Alex, who will give us a deep dive into our use cases.
Thank you for this introduction. And I'm very happy, very pleased to be here on the line with you today and introduce you not only to Tempo, but also to Powerscripts made by Cprime. So Chelsea mentioned at the end automation, and for me and our customers, automation is the key to success. So automation is basically the key to make your organization productive. So that it's very important. And here is also where Cprime or Powerscripts come into on the playground, because when we look, for example, into Tempo timesheets or into time tracking, we at Tempo, we are not focusing on any automation, because, and the reason behind this, that the use cases from our customers and the needs from our customers are so different that it would be impossible to solve them all. And therefore, we are very excited to have tools like Powerscripts on the side that can basically do the job for us or for you in order to solve your use cases and need the gets done or need the things done behind the scenes without you doing a crop of the finger. The only need to do is to write some codes or some lines of codes and let do the things for you. So this is where Cprime comes in. I mentioned also already Powerscripts and what Chelsea is also has mentioned, and she also mentioned, of course, other add-ons as well as AM Utils and all the other tools that are shipped with Powerscripts. And we would also see that Cprime, they have specifically issued the Tempo connector, and the Tempo connector is very useful when it comes to use with Tempo timesheets and also Tempo Planner. Even though we are going to focus on Tempo timesheets here today, it is also offers a wide range of solutions for Tempo Planner as well. And Tempo, like I said, is really focusing on the time tracking per se, and we are trying to make the time entry easier, and that's what we are focusing on. However, we are also in the automation of we're talking, of course, a lot of automations here today, and so we are also having we are going there a little bit, but maybe in that way that we just want to make the time entry easier and more productive, and for you to be more productive. And so therefore we introduced now a solution on the cloud server, which is suggestions. So really that you as a user find your Jira issues much quicker, much easier, and making the time entry process easier, not as time consuming, and more error free. So that's the aim for it. And this solution that we are implementing now for cloud is also going to backport it to server, to the Jira server version. So stay tuned. However, when we are just talking about cloud and server, I just also want to mention that all the things that I'm going to show you here today are based on Jira server. So I'm not 100% familiar what is basically everything what is doable on server or on cloud. So if you're on cloud, we might need to look into that specifically. So I'm doing here a demo of use cases here later on, specific ones, and also just for you to be familiar with the terminology that is being used by Powerscript. So they use what they have implemented as their terminology as a basic or the key terminology are routines. So routine is, for me as an outstanding person, it was very difficult for me to understand in the first place, but a routine is basically a function. So it is going to process the data. So it is taking some data in, it's going to process it and returns the result. And this is exactly what the automation is doing. It is looking into for some data, it is processing it and doing a result or processing the data in that way that it is doing the job for you. So it makes you more productive. And routines can be, of course, used over and over again and can also be nested or can be called from inside other routines as well. So one use case that I'm going to look into here today is related to post functions. Post functions are, of course, a part of workflows. So that's something that you are probably be aware of if you are a Jira admin or more into the depths of the Jira field. And post functions really do the job for us. So with Powerscript, you have an integration to, I would say, integration to workflows. So you can create post functions and within the post function just call a function or a script from Powerscript. These post functions, of course, also allow you the possibility to interact with Jira in general, like, for example, updating an issue field or adding a command or generating an event trigger to send some email notifications, for example, but we can also use that in a tempo manner. And I will also show you a use case for that. But more, when we also talk about workflows, we may not forget also other options like or the use case, for example, within validators or use our scripts within validators or conditions within workflows. So they can also do an awesome job as such. So I'm going to present here 3 use cases, very specific use cases later on, but I also just want to mention some very specific use case that I have on my mind. I have done a lot of testing now with Powerscript, and I really like the tool, and I just want to outline some use cases that are solvable with Powerscript or with Cprime, with the Cprime tools. That might be very helpful when you have a time tracking tool in place like Tempo. And one of them, for example, is hiding the time spent information on the Jira issue screen. So as you probably know, there's the history tab and the work log tab, where all the time tracking information is also logged, is also viewable by others. And this has been a constraint for many of our Tempo timesheet users or customers, because there's, of course, very this time tracking information is very so you need to be care of who's be able to look on those data. We, of course, at Tempo, we have a very complicated permission structure configuration where you are able to restrict people from viewing work logs from each other or on specific projects only and so on. But these tabs, for example, they are bypassing all those permissions. So basically having everybody having the option to view those tabs, and there's a need for many customers to hide these tabs, and this can also be done with Powerscript. Then we have another use case. We have the sale issue panel that you just simply integrate into your Jira, basically showing you all kind of information. There you might, for example, see all the related time tracking data, for example, from a different view, not only work logs per users, but also maybe sorted differently, or you might want to report on work log not box tempo, but if you want to present your data differently, you can use the panels in order to do that. I also, we of course mentioned the post functions, and I will show you a very easy use case here later on, but post functions might, of course, not only to be able to set values on specific issues, you might also want to update a property key, for example, on a Jira issue. So for example, and which is also very much often requested by our customers, is the ability to prevent time locking on specific Jira issues. And here we might, for example, not only on specific Jira projects, so we might to have a need for preventing work logs on, for example, specific issue types. So you could have an automation in place, which is within the post function, setting a property key to able to make it or to disallow the time entry of users. So that is one use case, additional use case. And like I mentioned, the validation on transitions, that might also another thing that is worthwhile for you. So for example, you might check on the time spent field, or the ability, or the if there already has been time spent on an issue, and only allow transition when the time has spent on an issue. You have the scheduler to on task where time spent has exceeded its budgeted work and send out an email. That might be a case for when you have certain budgets, of course, from your customers, and you do not want to spend more time, and you want to send a reminder, for example, when 90% of the work spent has been delivered, and you want to get a notification on that. You might also want to have timesheet approval notifications, which extend the need out of the box what Tempo delivers, or we also, and Chelsea also mentioned earlier, is the possibility to create customized JQL functions. So we have a need from our customers also to search, for example, in Jira issues for specific worklog attributes, or where the worklog attributes have a certain value or exceed a certain value, so you can use that as well. And basically, you can do everything which is between heaven and earth with Powerscript. So it is also suitable as an integration tool or integration platform for to be used to integrate all kinds of apps or third-party applications that you are using alongside with your Jira instance. So the showcases that I'm going to present to you here within my Jira instance, again, we are going to focus on the Jira server version, is live fields. This is something that Chelsea has not mentioned before. I think so, maybe I missed it. So live fields is functionality delivered by Cprime natively to interact with the Jira screens. So it helps you to set values, to hide fields, to show fields under certain circumstances, to watch certain fields. Means that if you have, or to do some kind of automation when you have set a certain field on, it will do some action according to the value that you have set. So for example, so there is this is the use case, or this is where and how you use live fields. And I'm very pleased that we have started now with Cprime Corporation to look into the options or the possibility to interact with the workload dialog screen. So, and another use case will be related to the Tempo connector, and Tempo connector is, I have mentioned the routines before, so we will also look into what the Tempo routines look like and what you can do with them. And we will set very easy use case. We will set the team field depending on the project here, for example. And then last, I will have a quite heavy operation based on where we look into work logs, and we will update the work logs in bulk just by using the SIL scripting engine, or the SIL engine. That's what it is, I think, called. I'm very sorry, Chelsea, or the Cprime team, if I use your terminology not correctly, but I'm not a Cprime expert, but I really think I understand where you're going and what we can do, and that's the main point. So use case number one, and I think so. I have been in contact with a lot of customer or a lot of Tempo customers, and when it comes to feature requests or what is requested from our customers in general, I think this is the #1 ranked feature request, is to make amendments to the workload dialog. So it is very common that, and as you probably know, we have one global configuration option for the Tempo workload dialog, and but the needs in the business might be very different. So depending, of course, or specifically for large organizations, you have different departments, you have different teams working on different projects, and the needs or the output needs and the reporting needs might be different. And so therefore, you might need to hide fields, or you might need to show fields, or might you give additional information on the workload dialog screen. So so all this helps people in the end to make the time tracking process easier. It makes help also for your users to help in the adopting process of the time tracking tool in general. So the key is really to keep things simple, keep things out of the way that are unneeded, and focus on things that are essential for your business. So that's the use case, and therefore what we're going to use here is Powerscript for Jira and Tempo timesheets. And the solution that we're going to show here is display information depending on the content, hide information, and that's not needed, and so on. So what I'm going to show you here, first of all, is the documentation that has been launched, I think now with the newest version of, starting with version 4.8.0.8. We have this documentation. I'm not 100% what is the newest version of Powerscript, but this is quite new, and with this version, Cprime also has shipped this documentation where you find all kind of information. But before I will look into that, but we can also see here what is going to be used, and I will also show you here later. So I will also look into the code, but we will start with how that looks like from the UI. So we have the Jira issue here, and we have, of course, here the Tempo panel and the time tracking section here on the right hand side, and I simply want to log time. So I have the code, and I'm going to show you the code later on that I have. Just to give you an idea, like I said, the work log or amending the work log dialog is the most requested feature, and the use cases are so different, so many, we cannot basically cover all. So I just give you an idea what you can do. So first thing is, for example, just to display some information could be very handy if many people are really struggling by because they do not know exactly what information to offer. So if I would have, for example, something like here, work log category, and that I'm not sure what to do, if I just would be able to display some additional information here, that could be helpful for me in order to help me to select the correct value, because correctness is the key to productivity. That is something that would help me in that process. So, and as you probably see or not see, that I have hidden some fields here, like for example the period. So I'm not able to select any period. I'm only able to select the specific day here. It's only for you to see what is possible. So, and also mention that we are able to watch a field. Like in this case, I'm watching the description. Means now I have entered some text. Based on this text, it is going to display some more information. And I have entered a new information field here, and I'm displaying the mileage field. So that might be, for example, the case, like let's say we have a project or we have a service that you deliver, and you want to make sure that for only specific service projects, you need to check, or you need to enter also the mileage. So you're basically going to the customer, maybe not in these times with all the coronavirus ongoing, you're not going anywhere, I guess so, but at the end, normally in certain cases, you go into customer and you want to make sure that you also enter a mileage, so that you can bill your customer for the work that you do. So just giving you an idea of what you can do. These are the first steps, the first babies that we have been doing with Cprime. Stay tuned. We are going to develop that even more. I mentioned that we still have some kind of restrictions yet, but we are going to work on that to make it even better. So we are really working hard to also to set certain values in certain fields depending on things. So really hoping we are getting there. But the documentation is quite good here, and it will basically show you what fields we are supporting and what functions you can use here for each field. So we look into the Cell Manager, and the Cell Manager is the tool where you are doing all your scripting. And when we look, for example, into where do we have that here? We look into the Tempo workload. So this is the code that is behind the amendments that we do for the workload dialog. And this is another beauty that I cannot mention enough, how easy it is to use Powerscript really with simple lines. And here's where the routines come in. So the routines help you make coding easy. With a few lines of code, you can achieve many things. Okay, so for example here, this is all the code that behind this. You hide fields. Like I said, I am not able to set fields now at the moment. We are working on that. We have the field messages, and we have here the watcher field. So you can watch simple fields in order and make that then according to certain values. You can again do a handler on that. So that's really positive, and helps us and will help you a lot in order to make the time tracking more easier and more productive, and get the results and increase the accuracy of your time tracking data. That's what it's all about. So what I want to show you next, I want to go to the next use case, I think so. Yes, go here, or where have I been? Here, maybe. Okay, so this was one. Really, okay, still think I have, I'm on time, so I think the next two use cases are not that time, will not need that much time, that I'm still have some minutes here in order to show you something. So we have in this scenario, we have a Jira issue that you create, and you always need to make sure that something or someone is working on those issues, right? So you can of course create a lot of issues, but if no one is working on that, that's not very productive. So, and in very many cases, you're creating a Jira issue and you do not exactly know who's going to work on that. So rather than picking or trying to find the correct assignee, you are with Tempo, you are able to assign or to to assign an issue to a Tempo team rather than to a single assignee. So, and this can also then be done by certain criteria. So in this case, we also focus on a very easy use case. So let's say we have specific teams within the organization that are handling certain certain projects. So imagine the support team is handling all incoming support tickets, or development or product team is handling each incoming feature request, and so on. So you would rather than assign it to a team rather than to a single assignee. And instead of each time picking the same team again and again, you have tools like Powerscript in place that's doing the job for you, making things easier. So automate that process for you and do that in the background without you knowing what's going on. And there is no need for you for going on. But and even sometimes you do not even know which team is working on things, because you might not even know what teams are responsible for. So you can also, not only on projects, but of course you can extend this methodology or this idea on creating even more complicated validations and make sure that you have or that you assign the right team to your issues. So in this case, we are using the Tempo connector, and this is what I'm also going to show you. That might be also a use case not only for Tempo timesheets, but also Tempo Planner. So when we also think for Tempo Planner, when you're looking into organizing your team, that would also help you to make sure that you have all issues that are assigned to your team, and that you can plan those issues for your team. So, and what we are basically doing here, the solution is very simple. We are adding the team to the team custom field in the post function on the brush flow. Okay, so that's what I'm going to show you. And before I do that, we are looking into routines, the key field of, or the key to success for Powerscript in my point of view. So here we have the tempo routine. So Cprime is making really things easy for us. So what we do here, we have certain routines, and what we're going to do here is we're using this routine, your temp, add tempo, add issue to team. So the only thing that we need is an issue key, and we need a team. And here again, I will look into my skill manager and look into the code that I'm using for that simple for that task. It is simple, but you see again a few lines of code. Of course, I have this test here at the comment. I can of course also skip that. So it is basically doing here very simple things. I having a project, and in the case of if the project key is big, I'm going to assign that issue that's going to be created to the custom web development team. You see, one line of code, very easy. Again, if you have another case for WDP project, it is going to be assigned to Green Cloud Disarm. So of course, like I said, you can extend this script in order to do all kind of logical operations that might be in place in your organization. Again, it is about productivity, to make things easier for you and do the work in the background. So how is this done now, and how is this script assigned to a post function? That's very easy. So you go into your workflows. I have that already open. Surprise, surprise. So during the create issue process, you will see here on the right hand side the properties validators, And what I'm going to do here is the post functions. And the only thing that I need to do is, I already have that here in place, as you probably see, but doing that is very easy. You add a post function, you check your option here, still post function, go to add, then you can, of course, create a new script or use an existing script. This is always the way that I would prefer, because the Hill Manager is really a cool tool in order to track of all your scripts and keeping them in one place and make them accessible. Okay, clicking them to next and just finish. So that's all what you need to do. So then it's done. Okay, again back. So this is use case number 2. Use case number 3. What is the business scenario? The business scenario is bulk editing work log. So this is another probably top 5 feature requested from our customers to add work logs in bulk, editing work logs, multiple work logs at once. So this is, if you ever have used Tempo, that's cumbersome work within Tempo. So we're always looking for automation tools that can do the job for us. So what we are doing here is, or what I have done here is I have created a connection to our database. So therefore I use the Power Database fields app, and we of course need Tempo timesheets. And the solution is we find the work logs to be updated from the SQL set statement and update them with the count value of the Jira issue through the REST API. So that sounds really, really difficult. Okay, so probably I would assume that is a task that is impossible. And the use case maybe behind that is, let's say, for example, especially when it comes to work log attributes, let's say you have your time tracking solution already in place and you implement a work log attribute later on. So you might want to update work log attributes later, or historically bad in time based on specific conditions. And you find these conditions in the database or from an SQL query, and then update them with through the REST API. So using the HTTP. And here again, it comes to the point where we're using the HTTP routines. So the HTTP routines again make things so much easier for me, even though for I'm not a programmer, even though maybe I have done some programming, but I'm not a programmer. I have not a customer or a computer science degree, but I don't even need it by these tools here, because they are so easy, making the things really for me, and I don't need to think about that. And the other beauty about these routines is also I don't need to think about if they're going to break between versions. They just do their job, and or let Cprime look for the job and make sure make sure that they do not break. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do. And the script that I have wrote here about this task that seems to be so difficult is you see here, and it is a task which is 66 lines. I don't think that's very much for that. And as you probably also see, if I would reduce all these comments here, it would maybe a script that is 50 or even less lines. So it is really helping you making things done or getting things done with little lines. What is basically doing here is using a database connector, and the heaviest work is probably here to find the right SQL or the right SQL. That's probably the heaviest work. So if you have that, the rest is really very key. So what I'm going to do here is I'm doing query and updating all the work log attributes on an or the account and putting the count on the work log itself, not on the issue. So putting it from the issue itself and putting it transferred to the work log. Doing the query here, getting the count on the issue and putting them on the work logs. And here is looping through the results and using the REST API here in order to update the work log attribute or creating a new one. So I could, for example, now and maybe or is really the validator here, is the checking and making sure that I don't have any syntax error or whatever in my code here. So that helps me. And what I'm going to do is to run the code. And what I also see here, when the update is so I can also do some kind of error handling here. So I see what has been failed, and if I would record, because I already have run the script here before. So if I, for example, run this code and amend all my workload data back to the January 15th, run it again, I will see, of course, some kind of failed ones, but I guess I will have here some updates, so I can that has been successfully updated, and I also can then use that and write that out to logging file or whatever to see what I have done behind the scenes. So that's really helpful as well. So I think I'm always going over time. Sorry, that's something that I always do. I hope I could really show you the benefits of using our tools together and showing you the beauty of Powerscript. So I don't want to have that any further, and I think I'm going to hand it over to Chelsea. She's going to take care of the rest. So make sure you already enter your questions, and I will stay on the line in order to answer your question if there are any related to me or something that I can answer. So I have stopped sharing my screen, and over to you, Chelsea.
Thank you so much. You did a really great job. We're getting a lot of good questions. Oh, I'm so sorry, wrong slide. Before we hop into Q&A, let's do a poll. From what you saw, which potential Tempo timesheets and Powerscript functionality would you all be interested in? A, automatically log time between transitions on issue transition. B, injecting work log attributes into Jira transition screens. Or C, selecting account automatically at issue creation. And we'll give you about 15 seconds and we'll see. Okay, I'm going to end the poll. It's interesting. It's about a three-way tie, so it sounds like we have a lot of work to do. But thank you so much for your feedback. And I'm going to hand it over to Jonathan to wrap up our last thoughts and let him head into the QA.
Hi, thank you for showing those use cases. Alex, I think you did a great job. You showed how simple some of the actions can be with the simple issue language. For example, adding the team to an issue only took one line of code. And you also touched upon some really, really powerful features such as the HTTP routines that lets you connect to third-party systems that use a REST API. And with those features, you can actually create real-time two-way integrations because you can receive incoming REST calls as well as outgoing REST calls. And combined with the Tempo connector, you could create some really powerful integration possibilities. And to help you become more familiar with the simple issue language and learn more about how to use it with Tempo, we're putting together a free bootcamp session that will be an introduction to the language itself and also include Tempo-specific examples. Once we finalize a date, we'll send out an email with the details to everyone who registered to this webinar. So now we can open it up to Q&A. Okay, so here's one question about having the SIL engine installed and not Powerscripts. The SIL engine itself is actually all the power of automation behind Powerscripts. What Powerscripts is essentially the trigger. So Powerscripts allows you to tie those scripts to the fields or the screens, the dialog screens. So when the dialog is opened, the scripts run, or when the workflow is transitioned, the scripts run. You can actually run scripts from the SIL manager, but you have to manually hit a button. So depending on what you were trying to accomplish, it depends on whether or not you would be okay with the SIL engine or need full-blown Powerscripts. Automation for Jira. As in, is there an integration for automation for Jira? There is actually integration for SIL scripts and automation for Jira. In the then section, when you want to execute an action, if you actually go all the way down to the bottom, at the very bottom, there's an option to execute a SIL script. We're actually about to write a blog about that to promote that integration. So automation for Jira is great for basic automation, but when things get tough, you can actually leverage SIL as well.
We have one question here. Would it be possible to integrate a Jira issue command, field box, and a status transition into the workload dialog? So maybe I do not understand the question 100%. So I guess you want to create a workload from a Jira transition. Is that correct? So and enter. So some ideas are when you enter the workload and people want them, and again it's about simplicity. They do not want people to enter any comments on the workload itself, but instead, of course, they can. But if it's empty, they want just to have the comment on the Jira issue instead. So this is something that we are not able to implement right now, but like I also mentioned, we want to work on that to make that possible. And I can, of course, not promise that this will be possible, but we are both on Cprime side and the Tempo side, we are working on to have that, to make that possible, because that's one of the, I think, more sophisticated solutions or requests that we have.
Thank you. I see a question here about whether or not Powerscript supports Groovy. It does. It is not the default language for Powerscripts. The simple issue language is. The simple issue language lets you perform all the same actions with literally maybe 10% of the code. There is a connector that allows you to use Groovy code. If you already have that code in existence and don't want to rewrite it, you can actually use Groovy.
So we have another question here about the Tempo budget integration. So can expenses be tracked, let's say? So Cprime, like I've shown you, they have created a lot of predefined routines, functions to be working with Tempo, and they have, of course, focused on time tracking routines and Tempo Planner as well, because these are the most heaviest use cases. But as I also try to tell you here, and what also John mentioned are the HTTP routines, means that it is very easy to integrate with or to use any REST APIs. So that makes it very easy. And and what Tempo is always standing for, and we are always what our focus is to develop and to develop and make sure that we have all REST APIs in place that are needed in order to solve our custom use cases. And we have a lot of APIs both for Tempo Timesheets and Tempo Planner, and also for Tempo Budget. So the use case, what you can do here is also using the HTTP routines from Powerscript in order to do that. And also, as I showed you, it is, or maybe I did not really show, they have different routines both for post requests, guest requests, and put requests. So it is really, really easy to use those in order to automate also the integration or the automated processes with Tempo budgets.
Oops. Okay, so we're running out of time, but let's do one more question and then we'll wrap it up.
So I see one about, is it possible to call HTTP post script when Tempo Timesheets is approved? That is one big request about working with Tempo events, which we don't have integrated yet, but I think it's one of the next big features we're planning on adding.
Okay, thank you so much for all of your questions. I'm sorry we didn't get to all of them, but we always have our chatbot support open. So, you know, if you have any of those questions that you still would like answered, you can always hit us up there. And thank you again for coming. We really appreciate your attendance and participation. If you have any more questions, like I said, you can contact us at our emails.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great day, everyone.